Welcome to the UnScripted Authentic Leadership Podcast, a podcast where we're seeking to lead change. We're also seeking to understand. We're also here as a platform for leaders to come together to unite, to develop and empower other leaders in the areas of business, family, and community. I'm your host, Lafayette Lane, joined by my co-host, John LeBrun. Today, we are joined by our special guest, Simon Bailey, who has joined us to have an amazing conversation on how to make a global impact. Put those hands together, put those clap emojis in the comment section for our special guest, Simon, whose purpose is to spark listeners to lead countries, companies, and communities differently. His framework is based on his 30 years of experience in the hospitality industry, including serving as a sales director for Disney Institute, based at Walt Disney World Resort in Orlando, Florida. He is also a prolific author and Hall of Fame keynote speaker that has worked with Signet Jewelers, SalesForce, T-Mobile, Stanford Healthcare, Mills and Hilton Hotels, just to name a few. Now, UnScripted is added to that list as well. An experience with Simon goes beyond feel-good content as he delivers practical strategies and impacts real lives. He connects with any audience on many levels with a relevant message that resonates beyond the stage. Simon's viral video posted by GoCast to Facebook has more than 90 million views, and LinkedIn Learning features 3 of his online courses that reach professionals in 100 plus countries. Recently, Simon has become a certified karate coach, leading with heart-centered intelligence. His approach is grounded in caring science that focuses on preserving human dignity, wholeness as the highest gift to self, systems, and society. His wisdom and expertise enable an Orlando-based healthcare system to be acquired and a division of a hospitality company to be ranked #1 for customer service by Expedia.com. Simon serves on 2 unique boards, U.S. Dream Academy and Orlando Health Foundation, where he's a 5-year board member that has 20,000 employees and over $1 billion in revenue. Recently, Cleary University, a 138-year-old institution in Holland, Michigan, rewarded him with a Doctor of Science in Business Administration for his global impact. And tonight, he has joined us right here on the UnScripted Authentic Leadership Podcast. Simon, thanks for coming on.
Man, I'm going to have to pay you off, man, for saying all those nice things. I'll tell you what, my day just got brighter.
Man, glad to have you on. Let's get into the conversation. We're talking about how to make a global impact, and just looking at just not reading your bio, but just looking at what you do and how hands-on you are and being intentional about the impact you make. I want to know, where did that passion on helping people and having a burden, I say a burden because I believe that's what it is when someone has an impact as you do. You have a burden and a passion, a calling to help people. Where did that come from?
I think it really came from my father. My father came to the United States some 60 years ago as a immigrant and migrant worker from Jamaica. He picked oranges in Mount Dora, Florida, migrated up to Perry, New York, where he picked apples, taught himself how to read by reading the Bible. And at the celebration of his life a few years ago, they had people that lined up behind the mic for almost 2 hours. And they began to share how my father gave them food. My mother and father took them in, paid their electric bills, on and on and on. And I had left Buffalo so many years ago, but I realized in my own little world, I was helping the least, the last, and the lost. I was helping those who were looking for a hand up, not a handout. And I realized I had become my father at some level.
Wow, that's incredible. I noticed one of the things I saw in your LinkedIn is that you're a breakthrough strategist, helping people find their spark. And I absolutely loved it. And there was a few more words to it than that. But the reason I loved it so much was we've been going through what they call the Great Resignation. And I believe largely part of that is people leave because they don't feel the spark. They feel unappreciated. I don't think it's money driven. How can people find that spark? We all desire it. We all desire to find our purpose, what we're looking for. So what is the spark? And I know you may not be able to tell everybody how to find it like for themselves right this second. Maybe you can. But what is it and how do we start seeking that spark?
So when you find your spark, you find your joy. When you find your joy, you find your voice When you find your voice, you find your freedom. And when you find your freedom, you create breakthrough. So finding your spark starts with, where is the joy? What makes me come alive? When I'm working in my talent, my gift, my business, doing the work that puts me in flow, I am moving to my voice. And when I find my voice, no one can do what I do. So we all have to start there. And once you find your joy in your voice, we then have to say, am I in the environment that embraces the full expression of the talent and the difference that I make in business? And when you do, all of a sudden, doors begin to open. A way is made for yourself, because you're not chasing money. Money is chasing you, because you've found your voice, you've found your freedom, and you've created the breakthrough.
Okay. I can tell this is going to be one of my favorite episodes. Simon, in your bio, it talks about that you became a certified coach recently, leading with heart-centered intelligence. I've never heard it put like that. What do you mean by leading with heart-centered intelligence?
So heart-centered intelligence is, I dial into what's most important to you instead of me. When I lead from heart-centered intelligence, I understand how to listen beyond the words, how to read between the lines, how to say, this is what I heard you say. Is this what you meant? Unpack it for me. Drop a pin in it. Let's double click on that. So heart-centered intelligence is intuitively being aware in the moment as to where that person is. And then through the series of conversation and dialogue, your presence becomes healing to let that person know we can talk heart to heart.
So, on that same note, a selfish question. As somebody who loves to coach others and things like that, it's really hard not to coach with a bias or an agenda.
Yeah.
Not that it would be bad, but okay, so I'm an ambitious person. I love to do projects. I love to always to create and develop and sort of, take over the world type of mentality. But sometimes when you're coaching, who you're talking to, that may not be anything they're interested ever. And it's really hard. I find it difficult to take all of my ambitions, put them on the shelf, and then tune into them and think from, I guess, use my perspective, my knowledge, but their perspective. Like, how it sounds to me like you've really got that part down. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, I am just in the process of completing a 1-year coaching project where I've been coaching executives in a corporation for the last year. And one of the things is, we send out a coaching connection form. And one of the questions that we ask is, what do you want to get out of the coaching time? Because as I have studied the best of the best in coaches, they, number one, have a purpose. Number two, they have a process. And number three, they have a plan. So we bring people back to that coaching connection question, because it becomes the purpose of the conversation. And when I sense that I want to project onto them my way of doing things, I always have to catch myself and bring it back to, what is the purpose? What's the process? What's the plan for them, and not what I think they should do.
That's great. I think along those lines, it goes with John, what John just asked. I wanted to ask you, because you emphasize about being a spark, sparking people and inspiring people, and people being a spark to other people. How does one be a spark?
The best way to be the spark is to find the thing that makes you come alive. Seth Godin, in his latest book, The Practice, says, doing what you love is for amateurs, but loving what you're doing is for professionals. So when you come from a place of love and you are alive, you become the spark, the energy, the fuse, the vibe, that the moment you walk in the room, you're not in the room is in you. And everybody begins to gravitate towards your energy, because you are the spark spark. So when you look at that in business, when people do business with you, they should leave better, feel better, think better, because your spark rubbed off on them.
Okay, so let's step into that for a minute and add a little clarity, if we can, from you. So loving what you do, not just doing what you love.
Yes, yes.
So many people say, I just want to do something that makes me happy. And I think sometimes the slight misdirection is someone says, I'm really happy when I do ceramics. That might make them happy, but is that so? I'm going to open up my ceramic shop. I don't know. Maybe that's something. Is that really what brings them happiness then? Or is it more into servitude? Can you elaborate what you said? And what's the difference between just doing what makes you happy and then loving what you're doing?
Yeah. So when you're doing what makes you happy or doing what you love, it pleases you because it's an outlet. It can be a craft, it can be a project, and it might be even the work that you're doing. But then the question you have to ask yourselves is, if I'm doing what I'm loving, am I doing it for the money, for the outcome, for what it can give me? As versus when I'm loving what I'm doing, it's not about what I'm getting in the form of Benjamins. It's about who I am becoming. And as I understand how to be, do, then I will have. Because when I'm truly in being, loving what I'm doing, I'm in this to others. And when I'm in service to others, number one, I'm driving value. Number two, I'm finding out how to improve in the value that I'm driving. And then number three, the person that I am serving becomes my unofficial marketing department because they know that I'm not trying to sell them, I'm trying to connect with them. So when I understand loving what I'm doing, I shift from being transactional to being relationship driven. And when I shift to being relationship driven, then I truly understand love is not what it says, it's what it does. So every day, consistently, if I open my business and the posted hours are 9 a.m., I've got the doors open at 8:45 a.m. because I am serving and loving what I'm doing.
Everything that you're talking about is running along the lines of making an impact.
Yes.
And we're talking about specifically making a global impact, which can seem a daunting task. And everybody wants to make an impact on the world. Everyone wants to make a global impact. But how do we really start making that impact that people can feel, that people can sense, that people can say, okay, this is a person that's going, when they're said and gone, we're going to be able to tell the story of the world, and we have to include them in the story. How do we make that impact?
It starts with your neighbor next door. Who's the person that is hurting the most? How do you start small? Small is the new big. When I start with my neighbor, then helping my neighbor might lead me to helping my community. I can then move from my community to helping my city. I can then move from the city to helping the region, the nation, and the globe. But if I haven't started with the person that's in front of me, right next door to me, then I'm not fit or have the gravitas or the wherewithal to stay the course when it gets tough. But what happens is I'm able to fall back on this experience of helping one because one leads to many. And if I'm consistent and faithful with the little, then I'm faithful with another opportunity to move from 1 to 10 to 100 to 1,000. But it all starts with taking that first step and realizing when you take that first step, it is so not about you. Because here's the deal. Real leadership is inviting people on a journey to discover the leader within themselves while they're following you. So if I just start with that one person and model leadership and love for them, that how I live and how I impact them might be the only Bible that they read.
That was great. That was amazing because so many of us have a hard time getting out of our own way, essentially. And what you're basically just saying is take your eyes off yourself, put it on your neighbor, and start there.
Absolutely. And don't seek the spotlight. Don't seek a post, a
Mm,
comment, a tweet, a reshare. It doesn't matter. It's not
mhm.
about that. It's about doing what no one else sees because
Mhm.
you're not looking for external credit. You have internal validation that this is what you are supposed to be doing at this season.
Okay. And so how does the individual who doesn't feel worthy of serving that person, or maybe they're like, I don't know if this is my spot, or maybe I'm not, why me, or why am I good? How am I good enough to help out that neighbor or that person? How am I supposed to add value to them when we know they're full of value?
Well,
Talk to
first of
that.
all, you have to realize it's not who you are that holds you back. It's who you
Mm-hmm.
think you're not that holds you back.
Mm,
And so if you have a story in your head, that's the endless loop that runs over and over and over again. And at some point, you got to cut the tape. So let's just start there, right? And then once you cut the tape, you begin to realize that when I am in service to others, root word serve, as I am serving them, I am becoming whole, WHOLE, within my soul. So as I am becoming whole, I am walking out my victory and my freedom in all of the areas where I'm not sure of who I am. Because here's what the research says, according to Emory University: when you begin to help someone else, the reward centers in our brain begin to light up almost as if we have been on the receiving end of the person that we've just helped. And Emory University calls it the helper's high. So, in other words, my healing and breakthrough when I begin to help someone who cannot help me. I'm not looking for anything in return. And what I begin to discover, the inner healing within my soul begins to happen as I put one foot in front of the other, making it about them and not about me, because what goes around comes around.
Mm. Servitude, servitude. And you're speaking to servanthood and leadership and serving. You just recently wrote a new book entitled Ignite the Power of Women in Your Life. And when I saw that, I said, I have to ask Simon about this. And I think I'm getting more of a clearer picture. But what made you write it specifically? I'm guessing it's for writing to men to be more appreciative for the women in your life and how we can better serve them. What was the whole thought process behind that?
I was married for 25 years and I stopped serving my family.
Mm,
I was pursuing money but had no meaning. I was chasing power but had no purpose. I was choosing status but had no satisfaction because I wasn't eating my own cooking that I was teaching. And after being married for 25 years, the then mother of my children said, "You give everybody the best of you, but you give us the rest of you. And I don't want the leftovers anymore." So I had built a house, but lost a home because I wasn't serving my number one customer.
that's a hard pill to swallow. How
man,
do you, I mean, I give you a lot of respect for,
wow.
I've seen so many families or so many men lose their family something similar, chasing the wrong things, and it makes me like a little bit emotional thinking about it. I haven't had that happen in my life, but it's definitely been, that struggle of trying to feel like you're succeeding versus taking care of your family and your kids. My daughter literally sitting outside this window watching me do this podcast right now in my office. And how do you, I mean, watching you take responsibility for that, but so many fail to do that because once they just kind of let it fail. And I don't know what the status is of that right now in your life right now, but how did you stop, take responsibility for, I guess, not eating your own cooking and move forward and impact so many lives from there?
As I was going through the divorce, my attorney suggested that I go and see a therapist. No guy wants to go and sit on a sofa with a therapist named Anita, who's been practicing for 40 years and has more degrees than a thermostat.
Yeah.
And Anita said to me, "Whatever you don't deal with will eventually deal with you. And what I recognized is I was shutting down, suppressing, not listening, wanting to be right, emotionally unavailable. So much so, my daughter at the time, who was 14, came into the home office. I was in between trips and I see she wanted to talk. She said, "Hey, Daddy." I said, "Hey, baby girl." And she sat down and I didn't acknowledge her anymore. And she said, "Daddy, I see you're busy." And she got up and left. And it hit me the next day on the plane that I missed a moment to connect with my daughter. So, number one, I had to start with therapy. Number two, I had to be willing to do the work and really say, you know what? I missed it. I have not been the father, the husband, the person that I really needed to be for my family because I was trying to ensure that they had the house, the car, the things, the stuff, right? And I'm here to tell you, I lost it all. I lost the 6,000 square foot house, the Mercedes Benz, and the Range Rover, and the vacations in Singapore and Hong Kong. And what I recognized, I would trade all those things back then to have a relationship with my children. It's much better now, but it could have been avoided if I would have done the work.
You made a post talking about forgive so you don't self-sabotage. And that is so powerful because everything that you just shared about your story, a lot of in leadership, we talk about, people that have hurt us or things that we've been through. But the greatest hurt that we bring upon ourselves is self-sabotage.
Mhm.
How does a leader recover from not making those same self-sabotaging routines and habits, perpetuating that in their next relationship, whether that be on any level, so they don't make that mistake again?
The best thing leaders can do, and I only say this as a person who is flawed, perfectly imperfect, I've made a lot of mistakes. Number one, surround yourself with people who hold you accountable, people who are willing to have the tough conversation with you. So I have some men in my life who we talk often, and they have permission to get in my face and hold me accountable. I think number two, to always be mindful of growing. When an individual stops growing, they stop living. And when they stop living, they're more prone to self sabotage themselves because of the story in their head for whatever's going on. And then the third thing, and which I think is probably the most important, I think, and this is the opinion of me, I think every man needs a therapist. I think every man should go and sit down with a professional licensed therapist just to have a conversation, not because anything's wrong, but so many times as men, we suppress and we dip and we dodge and we don't have the deeper conversation that we need to have. And what we realize is that we have children, if we have children or nieces or nephews, and the fruit doesn't fall too far from the tree. So if I'm going to stay out of the land of self sabotage, I must have an outlet to say, I don't know what I don't know. I cannot figure this out. I need to sit down or talk to someone who can put a mirror in front of me and invite me to reflect on what's right and what can improve.
So, since we're on the posts, you made a post that I thought was very impactful. It said the secret to living from the inside out is hidden in your daily routines. So 2 parts. What does it mean to live from the inside out? And then how does this routine impact that?
When I live from the inside out, I realize that life is not a remote control. You can change the vision. So when I live from the inside out, I am creating the news from the inside out, the vibration and the frequency of where I choose to live. And I'm not allowing constant negative news to determine how I show up in the world. So when I live from the inside out, I realize that everything I do starts with my mindset, my skill set, my will set to create an outcome. Now, as a result, years ago, I went to a seminar, and Mike Murdoch, who is probably one of the greatest treasures on the planet when it comes to being an uncommon leader, he said something really powerful. He said, "You don't decide the future. you decide your habits. He said the secret to sustainable success is hidden in your daily routine. And when Mike Murdoch said it, it was like a joy bomb. I said, oh my goodness, the daily routine, the habit, living from the inside out. It's the consistent decision to do what is right instead of what's convenient.
Wow. I love everything that you just said, and even back to the previous point about men needing therapists, because what it says to me is that being proactive instead of being reactive. Like, we always have the solution to the problem after. The hindsight is always 2020, but you're saying if you can put these preventative measures in place before something happens, you'll be a better leader for it.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
We always have our last segment, unless John, did you have another question, bro? Our last segment we wrap up with called Off Script, where we just ask our guests to leave our audience with whatever's on your heart.
Wow. So here's what I would invite everyone to realize. We are now in a world that has moved from a point and click to a touch and swipe world. We are now in a world of voice recognition. And as the algorithms and autonomous cars and Alexa and artificial intelligence continue to emerge, do not be fearful as to if you're going to be left behind. You create the new algorithm. You begin to code your way into a new future starting today. And it starts with a Vujade mindset. Deja vu, been there, done that. Vujade, going there, doing that. That's how you stay ahead of the curve and the change and shift on the planet.
That's how you do the off script moment. Connect with Simon at Simon T. Bailey. Also check out the website www.ignitethepowerofwomen.com. Purchase Simon's upcoming book, Ignite the Power of Women in Your Life. I will definitely be getting that. I think that's powerful just from what we've heard in this conversation. Again, we say thank you to Simon Bailey for having this incredible conversation with us about how to make a global impact. Stay connected with us here on UnScripted. You can follow us at Unscripted Leadership on all social media. You can check out our website, unscripted-leadership.com. Of course, our podcast is available on all streaming platforms. And if you want to help us to continue to take our mission further, faster, by empowering and developing leaders in the areas of business, family, and community, you can do so by going to patreon.com/unscripted leadership. As always, we pray that you be the leader that God has called you to be. We're here to build bridges and not walls. Bridges connect and walls divide. Until next time, God bless you.